All right. Well, I wanted to talk about a movie that is very, very, very good and awesome and interesting. A movie that is has to do with the real tale of a guy who just didn't want to live by society's rules, but ultimately it is a kind of poignant tale on what actually happens and the safeties of modern civilization and what they bring us. Because if you know the tale, the real tale of Christopher McCandless, you know that he made mistake in life and he could have lived a lot longer if he wasn't so naive. So let's talk about Into the Wild. It's a great, 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 great movie, and I can't wait to talk about it. Now, the 2007 movie has been out for a long time, but I would surmise to say that very, very few people today actually know about it. It has some notable actors. It's got Vince Vaughn in it. It's got Kristen Stewart before her Twilight days. And Emile Hirsch definitely puts on an incredible performance, a performance of a lifetime, in my opinion. And it's just a very poignant, very, special movie. It's not shot in a low. It's shot in like a good humanized way, and I do love the movie. It's kind of depressing at times, but at the same time, it tells a very important tale. Even Zach Galifianakis is in it, believe it or not, which he's hardly unrecognizable. Now, you could go on and on and on and on and talk about the real story of Christopher McCandless, a guy who kind of just gave up on society and just went to go live a life of adventure. A pretty heroic and notable ideal. But at the same time is kind of a dumb one because, yeah, look what happened. He died in the wilderness because he went out completely unprepared and got stuck out in the wild. And if he had even a slight idea of where he was in preparation, he would have known that he could have easily gotten out and gotten medical attention outside. But yeah, like he dies out in the wilderness at 24, and it's a very, very sad tale, and it's a very, very important tale because a lot of what Christopher McCandless did is actually pretty admirable. He and the movie shows it. It shows how he just doesn't really trust society. He knows that our society is kind of BS, and he wants to live this life of adventure, and he does for many years just kind of live out in the wilderness. He goes to Mexico, he travels on trains. He ends up in LA, which he's absolutely gross, and he wants to just leave that. He lives with hippies. He explores himself and other people. He has this notable trail, but his idea to go to Alaska is ultimately his downfall, because that's, of course, where his story ends. So the movie captures all this brilliantly throughout the time, and it kind of starts out. It's kind of like most of the movie is like him in Alaska, but then he has these flashback parts of his early life, his relationship with his parents, coming across Vince Vaughn, working as a tractor person, Rainey and the hippie woman. They're tight knit family. And the saddest part about this movie is that he never should have gone to Alaska. He probably could have lived such a better life with his new family, but his desire to just get away from people and society was ultimately his downfall. And you can see that throughout the movie and how they capture just like how happy he is with his newfound family, hippie people. Christian Stewart, who of course could have potentially, loved him, and they could have grown up together. It's Ron Franz, who's like this old mentor guy who's obviously close to passing away because he's very old. All these people that he meets along the way and has an impact on, he's essentially just left them behind for kind of a brazen and unpredictable idea of what his life should be. So yeah, like throughout the movie and the flashbacks, it shows two parts of the movie. It shows the good parts of his life, which is exploring America, just living this nomadic life, being the person he wants to be, really connecting with other people along the way, and running from his family. who is harsh on him. And then there's like the Alaska part where of course that was not a good idea for him. And yeah, maybe he, lasts a little time in Alaska, but ultimately he dies. It's debatable whether or not eating those potato seeds is actually what got him, or if he just kind of ran out of food. Maybe he got sick, but yeah, no, chances are he ate something, and it's just like a snowball effect. He can't get food, he can't get medical attention. He's just completely in the wild, lost and vulnerable. So yeah, spoiler alert at the end. Needless to say, the ending is very, very, very somber, as it shows an extended kind of cut of him just dying in the wilderness, his whole life flashing before him, realizing how bad he made a mistake. And yeah, it's sad. It's just a really, 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 really effing sad movie, and it makes you kind of think about your own life a little bit, and how it's like, I like the benefits modern society gives me. You know what I mean? It's like, as much as anybody would want to go out and do what Christopher McCandless does, there's like nature is, and there's even scenes in the movie like the moose part and the wolves, and he's talking about kind of like this force of nature that is like uh, evil and ritualistic. And it's like the reason we escape nature is because nature is like vicious and evil, and it doesn't care about us or how happy we are in life, or it doesn't have that aspect to nature. It's just a raw um, environment that will destroy you if you are not absolutely careful. And yeah, that's where kind of that scene at the end where you start to realize that he's wanting to go, and he even tries to go back. And of course there's a famous tale where he doesn't know that the water level has been raised, and he gets trapped out in the wild essentially. But if he knew about the environment around him, he could have known that he would just follow the river, and he would have found, like, I think a railroad was close. And it's so ironic that he didn't know that, because he would have gone back to all the people he loved, and he didn't, and he died. So it's a weird, weird tale, and great idea for a movie because it is very poignant indeed. But yeah, it's that thing where at the end where he realizes he wants to get to people and he can't, and it's really, 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 really scary when he kind of comes to that realization that he can't get back to the people he loved, that he ran away from, and he realizes how good he had it and all the things, and yeah, then he ultimately died. So yeah, there's lots of hippity dippity doing around, and as someone who knows this kind of group of people, we have today what's called like the modern hippie. There's people who like the idea of living like hippies, just not about living in society, using all types of substances and just living out in the wilderness in bare feet all the time. But they utilize more of modern society. They have homes, that they come home to, and there's like the modern hippie, and then there's like what Christopher McCandless tried to be, which is just completely off the grid, living with no money, not adhering to society's rules. And you kind of see that in when he gets to like that secondary hippie camp, is that there's a little bit more of like that new age hippies where they live within society a little bit, but enough outside of it to really embrace kind of a free nomadic lifestyle. Because what Christopher McCandless does is, and in the movie, is he just totally just tries to just live by his own means. And you see throughout the movie how difficult that actually is. It's almost impossible in our modern society, because there's rules and laws, and you'll get kicked out of train by train operators, and you just can't just go off on your own and just be yourself in our world. Our world is like a cage basically, and that's kind of what the movie's getting at, is that our own society is like a cage. And Vince Vaughn's character, Wayne, when he's like, he is kind of like right when he talks about it, he's like, it's better just not to think about that stuff, Christopher, or Alexander Supertramp as he calls himself, is that, yeah, like, if you start thinking that you're gonna get away from people in our modern world, it's nearly impossible. It's nearly impossible to get away from humanity. And throughout his adventures, and that's probably why he chose Alaska, is that's a place he could get to that is severely out in the middle of nowhere. And lo and behold, he goes there and dies. So it's a super poignant movie and definitely worth a watch. It's about 2.5 hours movie, so it's quite the adventure. And yeah, it really takes you on a visual trip. The music is very good. It's always got some very uplifting spiritual music, and it just kind of teaches you how like a young man could, view the world by really seeking adventure in this world. And that is like the core of his story is. But there's also the negative impact that's like nature will take that desire of adventure. Look at all the people who have climbed Mount Everest. They've climbed Mount Everest and died. They seek adventure. The world, the universe, this natural world that is we've mastered. If you go trying to disrespect it and just be free in nature will come for you. And that's exactly what happened to Christopher. And yeah, the real story is pretty tragic, and those pictures of him are pretty horrific, to say the least. As you know, that there's just a guy just kind of dying in the wilderness, lost out in the. And outside of Christopher McCandless, there's so many stories that are similar to it. And there are a lot of them. There's Carl McGunn, a 34-year-old photographer who dropped himself off in the Alaskan Brooks Range in 1981, and he forgot to arrange a pilot to pick him up, ran out of food, and ultimately died of starvation and suicide after becoming stranded. There's Everett Ruse, a 20-year-old artist who wandered to explore the deserts of Utah and Arizona in the 30s, way back, and vanished without a trace. There are many other. Timothy Treadwell, a bear enthusiast who loved bears and thought bears were better than anything else in the world, and ultimately got torn apart and eaten by one. All the people who had died on Everest, in jungles, in to just varying degrees of going out. I would say Amelia Earhart, who tries to fly around the world and then goes missing, probably just dropped into the ocean somewhere. And there's all kinds of people. Gene Roselli, known as the townspeople's Thorio, he spent a decade trying to live completely primitively in Alaska, to see if humans could shed civilization. Overwhelmed by the failure of his experiment to completely live off the land, he died by suicide. So, like, nature will consume you if you let it. Like, like, there's two sides to this, I honestly think. Number one, society is crap and people are awful. Yes, that's an undeniable truth. But as horrible and awful as taxes and civilization and all this are, going out to be a nomad in the middle of the wilderness probably is going to be worse. Like, yes, there are some great things about it, but the adventurous spirit of mankind is also tied to what we have conquered. Our ancestors fought tooth and nail to overcome nature for, thousands of years. Now we're at a point where, yes, there are some definite challenges of modern civilization, but, the benefits far outweigh some of the bad stuff. So yeah, basically all you should do is go out and watch Into the Wild if you haven't seen it. I would imagine there are plenty of people, God, there are people that be 20 years old nowadays that, were just born when this movie came out. So there's probably millions upon millions of people who have never even seen or heard of this movie before. It was pretty popular at the time, and it is a very poignant, very, very special movie, I would call it. It's not the greatest viewing because of how sad the ending is and how sad some aspects of it are. Many, many, many emotional roller coasters throughout the movie. But yeah, it's a great movie. It's pretty much got robbed from the 2008 Academy Awards, where it received 2 nominations at the 80th Academy Award in 2008, although it didn't win either category. Best Supporting Actor, and Best Film Editing. So I mean, you could have said that this movie should have swept the Oscars, but because it's an Oscar worthy movie, it's very, very like special and poignant and tells a very, very good, interesting story. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. So I mean, this is what I would call like an Oscar movie. It's very, very poignant. It's very, very special, and it's a movie everybody should watch. So yeah, in the survival community, Christopher McCandless is a cautionary tale of what not to do, but at the same time, it's a very special tale, and like he only lived to 24, so like he had his whole life ahead of him and he shouldn't have done what he did. But it's an important enough story, and he was an important enough person that really showed the world that, you can live by your own story, even if that story is wandering off into the elastic wilderness and dying. It's like he. His earlier parts were more notable because he lived this kind of nomadic lifestyle and was in within the safeties of society. But as soon as you go out, as soon as you go too far into nature, nature will kill and consume you, and that's what most people know in their minds. Um, to be around the safety of other human beings, because if you just go break off free from that 100%, nature will come for you on every front, and it is relentless, and it is evil at times. It is a very, very, very powerful force, and if you disrespect it, nature will kill you. So yeah, that's my review for Into the Wild. I would say this is about a 9 to 10 out of 10 movie. I don't like the ending, always rubs me the wrong way just because it's kind of sad and kind of weird. It kind of makes you feel weird about life and death. So yeah, I mean, I would say Into the Wild, fantastic movie, must see it.